just get out. What's up, players? Suge, what's up, baby? You're always the first person I look for in here. No, this is an actual live stream. I was trying to have another program ready so I could do some screen sharing, but I had a bunch of personal stuff going on today, so we're doing it just through the phone again. So eventually I'll figure this shit out. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Pull this up. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to do the same thing we did last time. It was a decent setup. Well, not last time, but the time before. So, but yeah. All right. So 1 second. Bear with me. Bear with me. You sexy bitches. All right, where am I looking at? You. Oh man, Suga, where did you go in Seattle? Which area? Did you hit all the sweet touristy spots? Yeah, and Seattle is an expensive city. All right, almost figuring this thing out. Oh, okay, I just figured it out. All right, sweet. Okay, we are good to go. Got everything up here. I can see everything. Hit the tourist spots. Oh, nice. UW. UW's fun. When I was in Seattle and I was going to college there, my girlfriend went to UW. Apologize, everybody. I look tired as fuck. I actually did not get as much sleep last night, and last day has been a bit of a shit show. So, but we're making progress though. So this past Monday, we went down to Orlando and we did a podcast with with Brent Tucker in the Tier 1 podcast and got to spend a couple days with him, which was awesome. Really enjoyed getting to hang out with him, getting to spend time, and then us doing the podcast. And it was a lot of fun. One of the coolest things that we realized as we were there is me and Brent were actually on an operation together back, I think, in 2013. So on a mission in Africa. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So he doesn't know exactly when he's going to put it out. He's got a couple episodes, and he's going to arrange them in a certain way. And so it should be out in the next week or two. So hopefully that will come out. That was a very good episode. I really enjoyed it. Learned quite a bit from him, especially as far as, because he's a much bigger content creator, been in the space for a while, and definitely gave me some really good advice while I was down there. So Jason, what's up, brother? I appreciate you, brother. Always listening. Always one of the most active people in here. So I appreciate you, brother. So good news is, I got, what do you say? So I finished the workout video finally. I have the promos from the two from the new partnership brands, including the new partnership brand, which is Tasty Gains. So I partnered with them for their creatine gummies, which I have to say are actually pretty awesome, and they actually work, and they actually have creatine in them, which I did some pretty extensive testing, and I could definitely within a couple of days feel the difference. So that's coming out. That will be when I get done with the live tonight. That's my focus, is I will finish that. I do have to add a few more graphics to it, and then once we're done with that, then it's ready to publish. So I already put out yesterday on Instagram and on YouTube what the thumbnail was, so that's everything's good to go. Is it pretty common to find someone you didn't realize you were on op with after the fact? As a matter of fact, yes, because there's a lot of moving parts in these real world operations, and to be honest, Brent looks a lot like other Delta Force guys. So, big burly dudes with beards running around, and they're doing their job, we're doing our job, and really don't have too much time to interact. And plus, we think at this time Brent was in the assault team still, and I was working with the recce teams. So we didn't really have that much interaction, but we just know that it was a very small operation, and there was only so many people on that operation, and we definitely talked about exactly what happened on that operation. So we were definitely both there, and we were definitely both involved with that mission. So it's, yeah, it is actually pretty common, and it's not the first time that that I've met somebody and was like, oh, hey, we're, what jobs have you done, what missions have you done, and we find out that we were actually in the same place at the same time, and in some form or fashion assisting on the same mission. So that's definitely happened a couple times. So let's see here. So starting this week, we are going to be focusing more on the physical health stuff and then the mental health. Because I've kind of put those videos kind of aside, but I definitely want that to be a focus, especially because I'm training for a High Rocks coming up in June, and really want to get into the training that I'm doing, and also the lessons learned, right? Like, what are the issues that a lot of people have as they're training, is they get caught up into these things that you should or should not do. Like, for example, people for example, I was at the gym the other day, and I saw probably like teenagers who were in the gym, and they were working out huge groups. And if anybody's been to the gym, this is how you usually see teenagers. They always come in a big group, and they've got one guy who knows what he's doing, and he's lifting weight, and he knows he's doing the proper form. These guys are doing squats. And everybody else who's not as strong as him would come up, grab the weight, and then they would go, like, they would bend maybe a few inches. And it's because they're doing the same weight. They don't want to, do any different weight, so they can all say the same weight. And I went over to him. I was like, look, gentlemen, first of all, you guys are doing the right thing. You guys are here, and that's the most important part. But a little piece of advice: form is more important than function, and you guys need to get into you guys need to get into the rhythm, and for it to become normal that when you guys are working out together, most people are at different weights. So as soon as you get done with a set, you get on one side, your buddy gets on the other side, and then he takes off whatever weight, and then you put it on. And then that way it's basically ego lifting. You're lifting to other people's strengths, and if you do that, you're never going to do the sets properly. So I explained this to them. They were pretty receptive. I think a couple of them were rolling their eyes, but I hope that they took that advice. And so, let's see. What's the quickest and fastest turnaround you've seen for someone to go from couch to maxing out the ACFT or AFT now? Well, the big event one where you've got I guess what did they do? They got rid of the I think the medicine ball throw, but all the other events, you've got the release push up, and basically all the events. That one is definitely much harder to max, and I know very few people to max it. I don't know what they're going to now, but during my days when it was just the APFT, which was just the push-ups, sit-ups, and run, it's actually very easy to max out the push-ups and the sit-ups. Especially it's harder for people who can't max the run to train up to that. I think it's actually pretty easy to train up push-ups and sit-ups especially. So if you were already a decent runner, you could easily max out the whole PT test. What I do like about the ACFT was that for people like me who actually lifted, it definitely helped us because it definitely incorporated some more skills that we had. So to max the ACFT, considering very few people can even do it, it would take a while. But running, as far as the normal PT test, running is the I would say is the hardest part. It takes the longest people to get better at. So how was the Tier 1 podcast? KT2. It was good. We had a great time. It was really, I really enjoyed hanging out with him, and we got along really well. It's our first time, like when he picked me up from the airport, it was our first time we've actually spoken because we've only texted prior to this. And I think we meshed really well. The podcast was fun. We had a lot of really good fun jokes. And I was able to give him a gift from the people from over at Barbell Apparel, and he gave me one as well. So it was good. Like I said earlier, we realized that we were actually on a mission together in Africa back in the day, and so it's supposed to come out. He didn't give me an exact date because he kind of has to figure out which episodes he's going to release in which order, because he doesn't do them exactly in the order that he records them. There's some strategy to the way he does it, but we should be released out probably in the next week or two. And then was able to get a lot of really good advice from him. Johnny's stuff, the weight will come. Absolutely. People rush that part. And look, I was guilty of it too. Like when I first started working out, I definitely did some ego lifting. And then I did a number of different things. And throughout my lifting career, I've definitely changed my form to something that's like better. Like, for example, I used to squat down to 90 degrees. Now I squat all the way down to my calves. And obviously when I did that, I had to start from the ground floor up from the beginning. So So the video that I'm releasing either later tonight or early tomorrow, which is my foundational fitness video, because I want it to be how I see fitness, how fitness has helped me, and all the lessons that I've learned along the process, And so it's I call it full spectrum fitness, or they're my 5 pillars of fitness, which is strength, speed, endurance, aesthetics, mobility, right? Because strength, move weight, speed, you got to move fast. Mobility, you got to be able to move around, maybe do flips and stuff like that. Endurance, what's the point if you can lift a bunch of stuff but you can't do it for very long, you tire out. And of course, who doesn't like aesthetics? I think it's always important that you look good, right? At least you feel that you look good. So all things to consider. So should everyone wanting to go to SF be learning drones based on the way we are seeing them used in battle? No, not really. So there are people who operate drones, and then there are actually members of the team on SF teams nowadays that have abilities to use drones, but you learn that on the team. You don't need to learn that prior. And plus, by the time that you finish the course, they might be using a new set of drones. So I wouldn't really worry about that, Suga. Everything is always a constant emerging technology, but you also have to remember that they train you to like a basic level in the Q course, and then when you get to your team, like obviously you learn your specific MOS, but when you get to the teams, that's really when you start to learn. You become a full spectrum Green Beret, and you learn all the other different jobs. You cross train in all the other jobs, and then you learn probably how to be really competent in your specific job, your specific niche that you are ultimately responsible for. Typically, if you're an 18 Echo, they're going to be the ones which are your communications sergeants. They're usually the ones, in my experience, who dealt with the drones. So, anyways, going back to the fitness stuff. So then I also, in the video, I talk about the initial workouts that I initially did, which was I used to do the old school single body part per day split. And it worked for years. And every single time I tried something new, whether I went to CrossFit, I would try powerlifting, all these different things. Whenever I needed to come back and basically reset, I usually came back to the single split, the single body part per day split. And then a year ago, when I decided to kind of take my fitness to the next level and I wanted to train for this triathlon, I actually changed it to push-pull legs. And I did it twice a week, because I'd seen so much research that you could train each muscle group twice a week and have a lot more returns as far as significant more results and gains. You can technically train past 2 times a week in a specific body part. If you get to 3, it does have results, but every single time, once you train an additional body part multiple times a week, you start to get to diminishing returns. Like the amount that you gain as that additional week gets smaller and smaller with each successive workout. So for anybody who's really, if you're combining time, work-life balance with the gym, my experience, and especially what I've tried so far, hitting body parts twice a week seems to be the best. And I do a 3-day on, 3-day off. 3-day on, 1 day off, then 3 days on again. So essentially I get in 6 workouts, and I get it in 8 days. So 2 body parts. I hit each muscle group twice in a week. And I definitely saw a big improvement, a big jump in my my progression and my results. And that definitely helped me to ultimately win my division when I competed in that triathlon. KT Doom, did you ever work with SF Jedbird teams? I actually did not. So SF Jedbird teams didn't actually come back. The Special Forces groups actually did not reintroduce them until I believe 2014. And at that point, I had already left fifth group. And when I was at ISA, I didn't really interact with special forces groups. It was mainly just the tier 1 units. So and sorry. So and then we into going on more into like the fitness videos. So now that we kind of set the foundation of how the things that I've seen, the successes that I've seen, and all the lessons that I've learned, like things what to do and what not to do, that will be the foundational video. And then from there, I will start releasing other videos, like where, for example, I touch on progressive overload and tracking your training. And I can tell you from years of like just going to the gym and just kind of figuring it out while you're there without tracking what you're doing, without having a plan of like, this is how many sets I'm going to do, this is how many reps I'm going to do, and knowing what you did last week so you can make sure that you push yourself, you will stagnate. And I did this for years. And it wasn't until I forced myself to every single time I come to the gym to record did I start seeing results again. So, I hit on that, and then I'll make a video about like more of how to go into progressive overload and the best ways to do it. And then I'll just start hitting different categories as far as the fitness goes. And then we'll also be hitting mental health. I want to get to one physical health video a week and one mental health video a week. So the next two subjects, which I haven't chosen which one I'm going to do next, for mental health, we're going to talk about identity, which is when people leave the military, when people, especially this, and when first responders, cops leave, because I think they're the most prone to this, is they tie their identity to their professions, and they definitely struggle leaving those specific professions. So tying the psychology to that, how it affects people, and how to avoid it. And then the next one is moral injury. And actually, let me look up. So curious, like I say moral injury, and I did research, but I'm actually curious of what the actual definition of moral injury is. I say it is. Because one of my former unit member teammates, actually used to be my detachment sergeant major, actually called me and asked me specifically to do one about this. So moral injury is the profound psychological, social, and spiritual distress resulting from perpetuating, failing to prevent, or witnessing acts that violate deeply held moral beliefs. It's distinct from PTSD. So basically, if you were to witness something, whether, let's just say you saw a child get killed in warfare or something like that, something that you witness that goes against what you believe is right. And that is essentially that's more of what moral injury is. PTSD, I feel like, is more general. So that's going to be one of our next videos. And then we'll try to expand as we go. I am working on eventually hiring editors, because right now what's taking me so long to put out these videos is the editing, because it takes me about an hour to record a video, but then it's on average it's taking me 5 to 6 hours to edit it, because I do everything myself. So once I get to that where I can just record videos and I get somebody to edit, I can start putting out videos, like long form videos, almost once a day. So what I'd like to eventually get to the point is, like every Monday, we put out like a mental health video, like Mental Health Mondays, right? Tuesdays, there are multiple different subjects. So the Understanding Geopolitical series, physical health on Wednesdays, for like workout Wednesdays. Thursday can be like an inspirational video or something that's just, either way, like getting to the point where you can have a video, almost a long form video, at least like 4 to 5 a week. I think that's what I eventually want to get to. Clifford, is this why Delta recruits from the branches of people of various backgrounds with evolving technology on the battlefield? I could be wrong. So there's a number of different reasons for this. So let's take the Navy SEALs, who only recruit from the Navy. You are limited in just the pool that you open yourself up to. The more, when you recruit from a larger pool, you have a greater chance of finding the people that you want to find. Because there are people who join the Air Force, who join the Marines, join the Navy, and everybody in Navy, Air Force, Marines, Army, everybody can go to Delta Force selection. But because they open it up to everybody, like there are people who join these jobs, which may not be that great just because they didn't know any better, but then they're amazing people, and then they get a chance to go to selection, and you never know the gems you might find from just opening it up to as many people. And that's one of the reasons why Delta Force is so successful, is because they have the largest pool to essentially get candidates from. So that's one of the main reasons that that's one of the reasons why they're I think it's good to open up as many. I think that the Navy should open up more. And that's actually one of the reasons why you actually find more Marines in either ISA or Delta Force than you will find in Navy, because unfortunately the Navy does not really welcome the Marines into their special warfare stuff. There's an interesting dynamic but the Marines are definitely welcome in Delta Force, and they're definitely welcome in ISA. And me and Brent were even talking about this week, is that probably the best dudes that I ever met at ISA were Marines. And he even agreed. He said like a lot of the best people at Delta Force were Marines. So YMWLM sub video, love your videos. Was wondering, after all that happened to your body, did you ever consider or already taking peptides? That is a great question. So I was just approached about doing TRT and peptides. So I have not done TRT or peptides, and I've been trying to get, like obviously I'm never going to do steroids. Like I just want my testosterone, within normal human limits, maybe like up near like 1,000 or something. But unfortunately my testosterone has never dropped down to a certain level that my normal doctor would give it to me. But I just got contacted by a company who is highly recommended by a lot of people, and a lot of people that you guys follow, good content creators, and they would like me to possibly come on and be an affiliate for the TRT and peptides. So I've always wanted to try it. So I had them send me the research material, and one of the things I'm doing tomorrow is I'm going to learn as much as I can, get into the weeds, get into the research, get into the science, and then I'm definitely going to try it, because I feel like, if it's something that enhances and there's really no negative side effects, why would you not try it? So, so I actually will plan probably in the next month or so. I will be trying some peptides. So hopefully it helps. I hear a lot of really good things, but the important thing is to be doing it through a reputable company and doing it through a doctor, which this company does. So DevilDoc15, my CO worked with you, said you were a good dude. Well, that's awesome. I have definitely worked with a number of people, and I've definitely pissed off a number of people. I pissed off a number of people in ISA, I'll tell you that right now. So it's always nice to meet somebody who did work with me that doesn't hate my guts. So it is what it is. One of the reasons why I do rub shoulders is because when I see things that I think are stupid, and I think things that are wrong, I don't keep my mouth shut. And anybody who's been in the military long enough knows that that can get you in trouble, and it's definitely got me in trouble. It definitely rubbed shoulders with some people that definitely caused some friction. We'll just put it that way. Nice, impressed you're maintaining a great physique. I like that at your age. I appreciate that, brother, because that's like, this is, your body's the only thing that you have. And what bigger flex is there but then to have like, just be fucking jacked. Like just be, or not even jacked, just be like fit. And when you first meet somebody, right, and you see their fit, that's the first thing you see, right? That's your physical resume. And everybody wants to have an amazing resume. So why not, make yours look the best? And because first impressions are a very important thing. And that's usually what most people say. And then plus, lifting, fitness, it helps to stave off aging as much as possible. I may be 41 years old, on my way to 42, but I don't want to look it. I know I look a little tired right now, but try not to look it, and I'm trying not to feel it, And then, if I do have kids one day, right? Because there's still a good possibility. My goal is to physically be better at them until the day I die. Like just dominate. Just always be like beat the crap out of my kids in like every sort of physical sport, any sort of physical event. You can't beat the old man. Like, I feel like that's a decent goal to go for. Beer Shark 7, what's up, man? Man, always fucking good to see you, brother. Sugar White, how did you deal with toxic leadership? So toxic leadership, one, it's hard to deal with, especially in the military. Like there's a couple fundamental problems with this. The way the military system works is, especially from like judicial, UCMJ, your commanders, if they don't like you, there's not that much you can do. And if they want to do stuff, if they want to like charge you or even like, give you counseling statements and sort of make your life a bit of a living hell, they technically could. It's really hard. There are really not that many mechanisms in the military to stop that. Obviously, you can go to other things. You can try to go to IG, but anybody who's ever dealt with that type of stuff, IG doesn't really do that much. So the best thing you can do is just document everything. So if some things do go down, you have so much evidence supporting your side, which definitely has helped me prior. So, you just have to do what you think is best, and just don't be afraid to step on people's toes. Because eventually toxic leadership, it will get rooted out, but it definitely, with the way that how the military is and how insular it is, it definitely stays longer than it should. I am Spirit 33. I appreciate that. That's what I'm going for. Look 30s, never really get over the age of 35. Like that's the goal. So Devil Doc, yeah, he told me about his past and I was like, I bet you knows the Stoic Viking guy, and he's like on YouTube. He's like, awesome, good for him. He was a good dude. I appreciate that. I really do. My goal was never to rub anybody the wrong way. I've always just wanted to help people, but I cannot stand when people just get, like, when I see injustices or people doing stupid shit, I will say something. And, I definitely had a bunch of things at ISA specifically with this on one of my deployments where I was a team leader, where I had people who were on my team who were basically getting bullied by one of our other teams. And when I stood up to them, and we basically had a lot of personality issues. We rubbed each other the wrong way, if you will. So, yeah. But I learned this. So my father, who was a lieutenant colonel, never made colonel because he was the type of person who put other people before him, before his own career, which is one of the reasons why he never made full bird colonel. And that mentality is sort of what I learned and what I sort of adopted, and that's how I approach things. As an example, so when my father retired, the guy when my father retired at like an officers club, there were so many people who were attending his retirement ceremony that there was not enough people to fit inside the room that they had reserved, and there was actually a line of people out spilling out into the other room. And then when I watched his commander, who's actually the reason why he didn't make full bird colonel, when that guy retired like a year or two later, and I only know this because I happen to be friends with his daughter, I saw his retirement ceremony and there was like 5 people. So, you know, my father had like 300 people. This guy had like 5. So I think that right there was a lesson for me of when you put other people first before your own career. It had a profound effect on me. And then when I read The Mission, the Men in Me by Pete Blaber, that like sort of reinforced what I kind of already learned from my own father. And that's kind of how I try to approach things. So I've definitely endangered my own career by standing up for people and not afraid to piss people off. So, hey, what's up, 22 Mike? Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, that was the Team House podcast. That was a fun podcast. It was basically my first one with Jack Murphy, so I really appreciate it. He's an awesome dude. Oh, and we found out we both paint miniatures. You know, I do like Warhammer stuff, but he does other miniatures. Actually, he's really talented. Did you ever have a period of time where you got out of shape? Absolutely. This is actually a funny story. There was a period of time during OTC where I got out of shape. I literally got out of shape. It's the first time in my life I was probably the closest I've ever been to fat. And I'll tell you this because it was towards the end of our course and we were doing nonstop operations, and it was mostly tradecraft and that type of alias stuff. And we didn't have time to work out operationally, and this lasted like almost like 2 months, and the only time that we had for food was like basically like fast food. There weren't that many healthy options, at least on the go at the time, and I didn't really, you know, I was like 26, 27. I was like, whatever, I've never been fat. I definitely gained, I think I was almost 260 pounds. Just for reference, I'm like 220 pounds right now. So yeah, so I definitely got out of shape. And then another time, and I've talked about this before with you guys, when I hit rock bottom when I was in flight school, and I was going through the process, then eventually I hit rock bottom and basically planned to commit suicide. I didn't work out for 6 months. So frame of reference, right before I stopped working out, I was like crushing muscle ups. I think I was doing like 6 at a time. I come in 6 months later. Mind you, I used to do like 5 or 6 muscle ups a time. I go to do 2 pull-ups. I can only do 2 pull-ups, and as I'm doing both reps, my bones are like aching. I mean, it's like I've never done one before. So, yes, I took 6 months off of the gym, and it was very painful to get back into it. But you know what? I did. It was fine, but don't ever take 6 months off. If there's a lesson learned in any of this shit, never take 6 months off to the gym. Don't be like me. Don't be an idiot. Dude, you if it can be with point blank. Well, I appreciate that, brother. You know, being big has some of its advantages. Being big also has a number of disadvantages. I'll tell you that right now. Both professionally and other reasons. Did you ever go to a tour in Afghanistan? Or yes, did you experience anything paranormal like ghosts or noises? Yes, I have been to Afghanistan. No, I never really experienced anything paranormal. Like ghosts or noises. Yeah. I don't think I've really ever experienced anything particularly paranormal. I've stayed at like ghost houses and stuff before, and I've never really seen anything or heard anything. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, you know. I'm trying to up my cardio game, but I hate running. I've been hitting the weighted jump rope. Beer Shark 7. I feel you, brother. All right, I tell you, I hate running. And I'll tell you right now, running, as far as cardio goes, is one of not, unless you are specifically training for a running event, there are much better ways to build your VO2 max, your endurance, not running. Because one, running doesn't even do that great of a job at it. And it's also very impact heavy. Like your joints will, you know, there's definitely a lot of things that will save your joints better. And honestly, swimming, jump rope is great. Any sort of boxing, oh my God, if you guys really want to improve your endurance, get into boxing. There is no better like energy building, endurance building workout than boxing. You really cannot go wrong. And you know, just one of the best workouts out there. And plus, you know, having the ability, and plus you actually learn agility as you're moving around, like you stay on your toes, and then practicing being able to throw hands, dodge, you know, get in the rhythm is, if you ever do get in a fight, is one of the most valuable skills. Striking, learning how to properly strike in boxing, you know, it's an amazing skill and probably the best way to build endurance. Probably after that, swimming. Just because it's such a full body workout. So whenever I watch Time Archives YouTube channel, they show Marines and exercises, and it makes me want to join them as a Canadian. You know what? Me and Brent were actually talking about this. The Marines have amazing commercials. They have great marketing. Way better than the Army does. The Navy does too. That's one of the reasons, like, you see so many, like, between the Navy SEALs, Top Gun, like they barely have to do anything. But the Marines, by far, have the best recruiting videos. You know, if I didn't already have such a long history in the Army and been around the military long enough, if I was just coming in to know anything about the military, it's just based on advertisements alone, I would have joined the Marines. Without a doubt. Plus, they have the best dress uniforms. That Mandarin collar, that's what's up. That should look good. That's what he said too. Definitely some personality clashing. One of your guys told me that he had a hot wife and acted like God's gift to the unit kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of personality clashing, especially between the two main squadrons full of operators. There's a big divide between the two squadrons, just because one's the original and then one is the second one. And let's just say they make the money in the unit. Let's just put it that way. Did you get paramedic or EMT while in the military? No, I never got paramedic or EMT, but I did a lot of really advanced medical training. I did live tissue training, if anybody knows what that is, where you actually work with if you look up what live tissue training is, I used to do live tissue. So I got hands-on experience with actual real life blood, organs, and all these different things. And so I definitely got some advanced medical training. But no, I was never a qualified paramedic EMT. What was the Opera Tempo like in ISA compared to Tier 2 conventional units? So it's nonstop. You are on a mission all the time, and when you're not on a mission, you're at home. You're at home. You're doing your professional development schools. You're doing training, and then usually back out on a mission. So, especially now, like these days, when there isn't really a conflict going on, Tier 2 doesn't do much, but Tier 1 never stops. We're constantly doing missions. Nice. I got a Dark Angels tattoo. Love the Death Watch and Grey Knights. Yep. So I have actually a bunch of armies, but my original army is the Space Wolves. Okay. And yes, I saw when I came in, and I got into Warhammer around 2000. Actually, it may have been late 90s. 3rd edition, Warhammer 40,000. And I saw the codex for the Space Wolves, and I saw these dudes in power armor with Vikings. I was like, that's me. That's all I needed to see. Plus, I was really into wolves at the time. That's cool. If you want. Um, what's the number one thing that you would do to increase your VO2 max? Boxing. I would say boxing and swimming. Just because they are the most just full body, like and actually both swimming and boxing both really work your shoulders. But definitely when you're boxing, if you have not boxed a lot, the first things that die on you is your shoulders. Like you just, like if you're not used to it, you tire but you're moving around, you're getting that whole body workout, the agility, swimming the same, you're working your shoulders, your legs, your core, your lats because you're pulling the water down. Just amazing overall workouts. But there's resistance in that, especially with swimming. So it's really hard for your body to adapt and sort of reduce the amount of calories that you get like running does. Because if you run constantly, if you keep doing the same 5 mile run over and over again, your body will eventually adapt and you'll start conserving energy and won't burn as many calories. When I was competing in jiu-jitsu, I built great endurance. I am way behind since I had a kid and took time away from the gym, though. Beer Shark, that's absolutely right. So another great one, so boxing is also great. Jiu-jitsu is awesome. Like any sort of rolling, even if you're a wrestler, if you are a wrestler, try jiu-jitsu. It's actually a very easy transition. You do have to learn how to be comfortable being on your back. That's probably the first thing that most wrestlers struggle with is they're not used to like if you're a wrestler and you hit your back, you immediately spring off of it, right? Jiu-jitsu guys, especially the guys who really favor the guard, they're all about being on their back. It's a weird transition for wrestlers, but it's you definitely have a great foundation. Jiu-jitsu is a great way to build cardio. Just be careful. There's a lot of people who get hurt in jiu-jitsu training, especially those older guys. 22 Mike, would it be possible to give more insights into what might be going on in Iran and around it in terms of SOF, CIA, ISA, and partner forces without really secrets, of course? Yeah. So, unfortunately, unless the Iranians rise up and take over their own government, do an actual uprising, I do not think that the U.S. is ever going to put troops on the ground. There's really, as far as we're looking, there's no need. Then there's a couple reasons for this. If we were to put troops on the ground, even if that's something we want to, and the Iranian people would want to, it would actually take away the legitimacy of their new government, because then everybody would be like, oh, you're just a new supplanted, or you're a new what's the word I'm looking for? Where you plant a new government, right? Anyways, so they would think it would lose legitimacy because we, put this new government in. That's how people would look at it, right? And then also we sort of spent our political capital on this by going in Iraq. And because of that, most people don't want to repeat the same mistakes. And I know the people who are in charge on the military side of things don't want to do that. And it's my understanding that Trump doesn't want to do that either. But we've given them the window. But that's not as easy said. It's not as easy said as done, right? Am I getting that wrong? It's late. I'm sorry. Anyways, for example, so the IRGC, which is the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. Sorry, sometimes I say Republican, just based because of Iraq, but the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps. They are not just the other military that watches over the normal military. They have, since Khomeini, the second Ayatollah, came in power in 1989, he has been giving more and more power to the IRGC. So not only does the IRGC have grown from 15,000 to almost 150,000, they also incorporated the Besiege, which is this basically volunteer militia group. They originally weren't under the IRGC, but they acquired them. And they're I think last time I saw, they're 600,000 members. And now the IRGC over the years has actually incorporated most of the economic organizations under the IRGC. So not only is it a military that has grown in power, they have they have the better funding, they have the better weapons, they have the better training. They also are in control of most of the Iranian economy. And they are basically kind of like religious fanatics, and they will do whatever the Islamic Republic says. So because they control the government, or they control most of the economy, and is obviously the government, you cannot take the Islamic Republic out without taking down the IRGC. And the only one that has that power to do that is the normal Iranian military, which is the Artesh. So, unfortunately, but the Iranians are not stupid, or the Islamic Republic is not stupid. They know that their greatest threat is the Artesh, which is why the IRGC was created in the first place. But what they've done over the years is they put IRGC loyal people or former IRGC officers in charge of the Artesh, right? So that they can try to control them from the top level, from the senior level in the Artesh. So they do a number of things. They've taken a number of measures to keep the Artesh from essentially siding with the Iranian population. And then the opposition groups, they're just too divided, both politically and ideologically. And plus the biggest of them, the MEK, nobody trusts them. They're like the biggest, but they're basically, I don't want to call them a cult, but they helped overthrow the Shah, and then during the Iran-Iraq War, they actually sided with Saddam, and then when the Iran-Iraq War was done, they went to war with the Islamic Republic. So basically, these guys go to war with everybody. So nobody really trusts them for obvious reasons. So all these things going on, it's very hard. And if the Iranian people do want to rise up, it's really hard because the Islamic Republic is constricting their internet and their ability to communicate. So if you can't communicate around the country, it's really hard to coordinate these things. So these uprisings, if you will. So it was a long-winded answer, 22 Mike, but I hope that helped. Did you go to Sockham? I did not go to Sockham. No. I think the only people who really go to Sockham are 18 Deltas and PJs. I think that's the level. I think Sockham is what they go to, or some close to variation. Sounds like the training really stuck. How do you feel about the government banning live tissue training? I don't know when they banned it. I heard that they banned it. There's a lot of animal activists who, are not really a fan of it. So, it is what it is. It is invaluable training to actually be able to work on live tissue is definitely something. But I think that we can get better at creating some sort of prosthetic that we can emulate live tissue that without having to do it through animals. So, how do you maintain a relationship with your significant other while being in the military? Is it possible without losing entirely? Absolutely. There's a lot of people who I've seen do it. Even at the tier 1 levels, there's definitely some really successful like married couples who did it. You definitely, it's definitely one. It is hard. It is work. 2, the biggest part is people don't manage expectations. So if you're joining the military and you're married, you need to have that conversation with your spouse. Like, hey, there's going to be some difficulties, right? Between deployments, other things like that, living military bases. If you explain that and manage those expectations, you definitely have a greater chance of success. If you're already in the military and then you get married, you need to have that conversation with your fiance. Be like, hey, this is what life is like. Manage those expectations. That's a big part. Most people, in my experience, who got divorced, a lot of it was because they didn't manage expectations. Oh, nice, Rudy Patel. Yeah, dude, Warhammer 40K, it's fun, man. I'm always been into strategy games. I love strategy games. Um, JQ 1610, how does intelligence support activity work if you're already in tier 2 unit like 75th Ranger Regiment? Is there an open selection process or are operators typically invited? Yeah, anybody can go to selection. It's very similar to Deltas. You can just apply. And you can either apply for an operator position or you can apply for a support position. And you'll go to the respective selections. Did you ever work with CSR or JTF2? JTF2, yes, I did. In Iraq at one point. It was very small. It was a very tiny element. To be honest, they were actually more liaisons than anything. They weren't really doing anything operationally. Wrestling experience is huge in jiu-jitsu, especially if you're into no gi. I completely agree. I'm not the biggest fan of gi just because I am a wrestler originally, and so I definitely prefer the no gi stuff. But you got to learn gi stuff. It just how to manipulate people's clothes into chokes and other sort of submissions. You definitely need to do that. What firearm training drills are you doing now and that you are out, the Delta Syndicate? To be honest, I actually don't shoot all that much. I'm not really located near a range. I live out in a farm with my horses, and I don't really shoot guns around my horses, so I'm just not really in an area, and that's just not really my focus right now. And also, there are people. And people have asked me if I will do gun content. I'm not the expert in it. I'm good enough, right? And I'm good enough to like roll around with the D-boys and stuff like that. I'm not as good as they are. I leave it for people like Brent and the other tier 1 guys, or the guys who like that was their job. My job was more of this full spectrum, taking in intelligence, doing clandestine stuff, and then also having like enough tactical knowledge that I can handle myself in either current situations or I was working with SEAL Team 6 or Delta or RRC. When are you going on cleared haunt with Anthony Stumpf? When the man asks me. I'm a big fan of Anthony Stumpf. I think he's one of the best interviewers out there. He's like such an amazing critical thinker. I absolutely love that. It's one of my favorite things. Like when I look at podcasters and who I like, it's the critical thinkers. And definitely Andy Stumpf is one of them. Thanks, brother. 22 Mike. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd like to do part 3. I think I was going to do a part 3 about the Codes Force and their proxies, but I do need to get back on physical fitness videos. So that is going to be my focus this week. And if I do enough, I plan to do part 3 for the Iran series, which will be Codes Force and their essentially their proxies, like Hezbollah, Houthis, Syrian Shia regimes, and a couple others. When did they ban live tissue training? I just did it last year. Didn't know they banned it. I actually don't know if they banned it, Devil Doc. I know that they've talked about banning it. I'm not in anymore, so I don't know. I just know that there have been times where they've had it, and other times they have not had it. So I don't know where it's at currently within that cycle. I think it's extremely valuable, and the veterinarians who are involved, they do it in the most humanitarian way possible. So if you know, you know. Have you ever worked with European soft counterparts such as Polish Grom? Yes, I have worked with European soft counterparts. I've never worked with a Polish Grom. I have worked with the Norwegian Jaegers, the British SAS, and some other British organizations. And the Spanish, randomly enough. I know they're not European, but I did do a bunch of work with the Australian Commandos and the Australian SAS for a while. It would be great to see you as a guest on John Kirakow's show. I have a feeling you'd hit off and have an interesting conversation on many topics. Yeah, definitely. He's actually one of my favorite people. John Kirakov is one of my favorite people to watch, and I just love his explanations, how he brings up everything, and of everything that I've seen of anybody who's ever been a content creator about the agency, his stuff is the most accurate that I've seen. And I did a bunch of work with the agencies, and so I worked alongside them, and I have a lot of experience, but I don't really know the intricacy of the inside the agency that he does. And it's always fascinating because I watch him and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that. It starts to make more sense of stuff that I saw while I was working with him. So I think he's fascinating. It would be amazing to talk to him, but I think he's really cool. I actually really enjoy watching John Kirakov. Wow, Canadian Special Ops not being used at full potential. Shocker, right? Yeah. No one saw that fucking coming. Do you still do jujitsu? I do. I'm not currently doing it right now, but I do plan to, like probably for at least a couple months out of every year, I will get back into it. I get back into boxing and I get back into jujitsu. And maybe a little kickboxing too, because I think it's always important to be able to throw legs as well as hands. How do you get to own a farm? Well, so where I live, it's a big horse area, and there's a lot of farms out here that have horses, and so, was able to get on a property that had horses. Randomly enough, it's actually not where I keep my own horses. I actually keep my other horses at another farm closer to the place that I actually play, but either way, I enjoy it. And then while I did have Callie here, that was like awesome because every single day she got to live her life on a farm instead of in the city. And Callie's favorite animals were horses. In units that operate at a very high level like ISA, what behaviors build trust inside the team and what behaviors quietly destroy it? It's a good question, JQ1610. Units that operate at a very high level like ISA, what behaviors build trust inside the team and what behaviors quietly destroy it? So the things that I saw go wrong was your team. You have to support your team and their careers like they're one of your own, like they're your brothers. What I saw was people trying to curry favor with their upper echelons by like trying to steal credit or be like, oh, if I say, let's say I established, I'm gonna try to talk around this. If I tried to establish a new contact, right? And it was very awesome. Like, this is a new contact. This gives us new access to something. I've seen other people who want to take credit for that, who will try to swoop in behind you and then basically sabotage you with that new contact and be like, hey, this dude's actually like my support dude. You should work with me and not him. And that type of undermining will completely destroy an entire group of teams if you're like in competition. Because honestly, at the end of the day, we're on the same team. So you have to treat each other like you guys are brothers. Like, this is, if you're not successful, I'm not successful. And I feel like, unfortunately, ISA definitely has some tendencies to have some toxic stuff going on. And I definitely saw a bunch of that, people who are in competition for stuff, trying to curry favor with a command, because obviously if they felt like if they had more favor, that they might get more flexibility to do operations and things like that. So back each other up, basically. And if you do that, you build rapport. Like, if you know this guy's got your back and he's not going to throw you under the bus, that's how you build rapport, or one of the ways. Where is ISA stationed at, and when they're not training or on a deployment? Where is ISA stationed at? JQ, I'm not going to confirm where they are actually located. I will let books and other sort of material point that out. I hope you understand. When they're training, non-employment. Yeah, it's where they're located. I will give you a hint. Their nickname is the Army of Northern Virginia. Australian SRS are awesome. Them in church case are my favorite. Hilarious. It's absolutely Devil Dog. My favorite time, I would say, of any special operations foreign that I ever spent was with the Australians. I spent almost an entire month where I basically like lived with them, and I learned everything about Australian culture. I learned about how they use the word cunt, like in almost every single sentence, and it usually used in a positive connotation, especially when you're talking about your boys. I learned about Vegemite. I learned all about cricket. I actually watched the cricket World Cup with them, and I actually watched Australia beat the crap out of New Zealand in the finals. I forget the year this was. I think in 2015. And then I learned that if you're in a bar with your boys and Eagle Rock comes on, you got to drop your pants down to your ankles and you got to dance around in your underwear. Interesting fact. This is true, by the way. Fritzner's on Bremford. Hello, brother. How you doing? Have you heard of the Vanguard Wall podcast? Why does that sound familiar? Let me look it up. Okay, let's see this. Vanguard Wall podcast. Eric Shelby. Interesting. I like their studio. Okay. Mike. Thank you. This was a pleasant morning surprise. Unfortunately, need to get to work now. Good morning from Saigon. Evening watching from the US. Have a good one. Is your mentor at the tactical attachment in the public eye? So, depending on which mentor you're talking about. If you're talking about the CW5 I was referring to, he actually was not in the tactical detachment. He was my mentor in the unit. But he is, if you Google his name, there's a lot of stuff on him in Google. But that existed before he even ever came to the unit. So, like, he's kind of like a legend in the entire Army and the intelligence community. My specific mentor in the tactical attachment, he is not in the public eye. During OTC for ISA, how much CQB training do you actually do, and which drills are the toughest? Do you guys implement sport shooting into training? So we do. We actually have a tactical portion to our OTC, and we do a lot of stuff. And to be honest, most of our tactical training is to get us ready to support other tactical units within Tier 1. They give a good baseline. Like, for example, we actually go to the same land nav courses that Delta does. We do a bunch of other things. And then we also do a lot of shooting, and we do training with civilian competition shooters, so we can learn like newer and different techniques from like the best of the best as far as the civilian competition world. So we definitely do various types, and we get different types of outlooks and different types of instructors for shooting. What guns do they use at the ISA? Because we support a lot of the tactical units at Delta and SEAL Team 6, we actually have all the same weapons that they do, because if we do jump in on a mission with them, it's usually only like 2 of us. And when we do, we don't bring ammunition with us. We bring the weapon systems, but they have the ammunition. So we need to bring who we jump in with, we need to have their weapon systems. Like, for example, SEAL Team 6 likes to use MP7s and things like that. So, yeah. I noticed the Army was the only fit recruiter was the infantry dude. Yeah, I think that there's, most people, I think it's a common misconception. Most people think that most people in the military are really in shape. Unfortunately, they're not. I even thought Green Berets were going to be like in really good shape. I actually met a bunch of fat Green Berets. I thought most people in Special Forces were going to look like Chris Hemsworth, be big, muscular guys. Most of them are not. Most of them, I would say even like guys at Delta Force, like the average height at Delta Force is like 5'9", 5'10". These guys look more like runners. People of my size, because I'm 6'2", 220 to 230 pounds, most people are not my size. So I'm definitely usually one of the biggest guys. There's definitely bigger guys, but yeah. So, all right. Okay. Let's see. All right, guys. What's your favorite president during your time alive? I was a really big fan of Reagan. I still think that Reagan, his ability, he was very charismatic, and his ability to, like, his speeches would get you riled up. Like, if you ever want to get pumped up, go listen to some fucking Reagan speeches, especially the one where he talks about we won't surrender, when he was talking towards the Soviet Union at the time. That speech, every time I hear it, gets on my raises the hairs on my arms. And I think I think there's a lot of things that Trump does well. I think one of the things he does not do well is the way that he speaks. People who may or may not particularly like him, I think that kind of has a tendency to turn people off sometimes, the way that he says things. And I think Reagan definitely had that skill a lot better than he did. I do think Marco Rubio has got that skill as well, but Reagan was like witty. He was on his feet. Like, he was just really good. Obviously he had a career in acting. So, but yeah. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everybody. I have to cut it short because I got other stuff I got to do tonight. So, Thomas Guito, I salute you from Marlboro, Costa del Sol in the South of Spain. Good to see you, brother. What advice would you give someone preparing for ISA selection time standards? What I would say, Palm, is rucking, whether it's Delta or ISA selection, you want to aim for a 12-minute mile on the ruck. So aim for a 12-minute mile. That's what you want your goal to be. So, all right, brothers. Thank you, Beer Shark. Thank you, Clifford. And then, of course, always thank you, Suga, for being the awesome moderator that you guys are. And I'll talk to you guys later.